My name is actually John Yang Zirong. Zirong is my Chinese name. My cultural background, my heritage is actually Chinese and French Dutch. And I've been working in the visual arts for about 40 years. You know, I grew up sort of up until the age of 11 in Hong Kong. So my mother was a Chinese opera singer. And my family also collected a lot of Chinese paintings from the Ming and the Qing dynasties and antiques. My great-grand-uncle was a fairly illustrious poet, and his title was the 13th Literati of the Southern Seas. He went mad at the end of his life, but you know, he was an interesting lineage to see that there has been a lot of interest in cultural matters in my family. I think culture really is the absolute lifeblood of my practice, in the sense that you have to have a sense of cultural resonance in one's work. It's the resonance of where you are, who you're from, where you're from and who you are, that really informs the way how you make work. And I think that sort of level it's in an indirect one. You don't go out and start making work that says I'm going to be cultural, but you do need to have that sense of resonance in your own being before making work, I think. Art is an absolutely important function in our existence. I think that, for those that are just starting in making art, you have to imagine what it's like without art and culture in a society. It would be completely barbaric. We're always in a danger of falling into a sort of barbarism because we live in a totally economistic and fairly informational sort of world where a sense of culture is actually denigrated in a very low sort of area, and I think that this danger is always there, whereas culture really, I think, enriches our lives in a lot of different ways, our community, and from a very personal point of view, I think the most important thing about culture is in our own individual development, in the balance, say, for example, between thinking, feeling, sensation, and intuition. Those four different aspects are very important in our development in our lives, and culture really facilitates that. So in that sense, I think that having a lot of different cultural values is important in our art making. Of course there are challenges. There are external challenges and there are internal challenges. The internal challenges is, you sometimes feel, first of all, you've got to work your way through in making a work which is clear, which is succinct, which is of interest to yourself and to other people successfully. That is a very important challenge. From an external point of view, it's only a question of acceptance. And, artworks are either accepted immediately or it can be accepted in 5 years, 50 years, 100 years, 200 years, it doesn't matter. Somewhere along the way, that sense of understanding artists come and go. But the important thing is that the work is actually useful for people somewhere along the way. So in that sense, the challenge is always there, but it's an internal challenge. It's an internal challenge to get a sense of clarity and it makes sense to your own life. Diversity within a community, for me, it means a sense of hospitality. It means that our ability to be able to make room so that there are new differences that comes into our lives. That is how I see diversity. And to be able to admit these differences rather than a sort of a defense against differences and against something that is unusual to us is a very important ability, which I'm afraid even the highest museums in our land is having trouble in tackling this still. I think that diversity also is plays an important role in our community, say for example in Boroondara, because there are in fact so many diverse communities here. So we have to actually admit our own sense of presence. If we deny that these people are here, we're not actually living in the present, we're living in the past. So in that sense, it's good for us to be able to accept this difference and somehow be hospitable to it and make room for it, no matter where the differences come from, in a sense. So that's how it informs my own work, I think. That is the sense about plural sort of society that can coexist. That is one thing, but the next thing is, of course, we have to think for ourselves as to how we can have some sort of ethical relationship with all these differences. And this moment of crossing cultures is we have to think about people's human rights and different values that they hold. So these are the issues. The ethics and the differences is the important thing.